What's going on, everybody? You've got the card board coach here with your boy, Coach Co. And team, today we've got a very special guest on the podcast here today. We've got Mikey Singer. How you doing today, man?
Great to be here. Super excited to be on first time on your podcast.
I'm happy to have you. You and I have had a long-standing relationship going back
Mhm.
to like the 2021 Expo, I think.
Yeah,
2020.
for first X November 2021, first
Yeah,
Expo back.
yeah.
Found you on Instagram over the pandemic. Not Instagram, Twitter, not in
TikTok,
yeah, over
TikTok.
the pandemic and
Yeah.
got to meet you for the first time there.
And
And
now two and a
and
half
stayed
years
in
later.
contact ever since. Yeah.
I love it. I want people to know who's behind the scenes, who's conducting, who's pulling strings at the biggest card show in Canada, one of the biggest card shows in North America slash globally. So, I mean, first of all, kudos to you. And, especially from that first meeting until, now where we communicate pretty regularly and we talk about what's about to happen in the next month or so. I mean, the expo's come a long way, man. Like the expo has come a long way, and I mean, you're partially to thank for that. You're not partially, you're entirely to thank for that. So
Not entirely. I think
yeah, I
that
know, but you know
the
what I'm
owner
saying,
definitely
right?
gets most of the credit, but we
Yeah,
definitely he sets us to our tasks and gives us the freedom to add to the show. And it's been great. It's been great to see the growth and not just us, but like the hobby itself is to has a large part to do with it, the growth of it. The kids coming up and the parents being dragged to shows or dragging their kids to shows and vice versa is a big reason why the hobby is where it is and why the show is where it is. And it's honestly more than doubled from where it was before the pandemic.
I see it, man. I see it, and the people who are
Yeah.
regularly attending see it, and we're starting to see more. Obviously more people in attendance, but we're starting to see more big names in terms of like signees.
Yeah.
And I do want to dive into that with you because I think what you guys are doing for this one is especially interesting. But also like we're seeing a lot of people come up from the United States, some of them with fairly big presences, some of them who just decided to, take the trip over the border from Michigan or Chicago or Boston or wherever. And it has been just kind of wonderful to be a part of, man.
Yeah. Well, it's all hockey card gong show. Send into the Americans across for all the hockey cards, right? So no, it's been great, and it's funny when you say that about the Americans and the relationship we've cultivated. We've done a similar job with some of the other influencers in the space. So, as well as guests that we're getting up with Dennis Rodman, William Shatner, Kevin Kiddermeyer, like we're getting some really great players, great athletes coming out to sign. But we're also getting amazing influencers. Chris Sewell, Ryan from Card Collector 2, yourself, Mojo's coming back. So all of these people, Jeremy Lee's going to be there. So we've got a really great collection of influencers, and that helps spread the message to the US. It's funny, I was watching Mojo J at the Dallas Card Show, and he's talking to a vendor, and they're talking about the Toronto Card
Yeah.
Show,
Yeah.
which is great, right? It's great to see, and that really helps spread our message far beyond what we can do in Canada.
Yeah, well, even like Kyle said, and he'll say this like any
Yeah,
chance he gets, like it's one of his, if not his favorite show, because like Kyle's a big into hockey cards, right? And he just says like the vibe in Canada is just completely different, and I mean, it's amazing to kind of like be associated with a show of that magnitude, right? So, talk to me about the direction that we went in this year for this show, the Spring Expo. It's coming up April 25th through the 28th,
hmm
and like you just mentioned, William Shatner's going to be signing. We recently discovered that the Trailer Park Boys are going to be there as well.
hmm
Rob Van Dam. Like we've got, I would say, except for Van Dam maybe, but like pretty unconventional guests when we're talking about like a sports card show. I love that, by the way, because
Yeah.
I think that there's a place for everybody in this hobby, and we talk about this frequently, and it's but collectible space in general is quite broad. And there are certain die-hard collectors when it comes to so many different niches in this space. And so it's nice to see you guys addressing so many different types of collectors. But where did that come from? And did you know that when you started signing one person and another person that like you had the opportunity here to really put on something different?
So it's funny. Even the creation since Steve, the current owner of the show, took over and had a background at Fan Expo and had been the general manager there for a number of years before acquiring the shows. He really changed the direction of the autograph area. Right, it was an afterthought. It wasn't a feature of the show. Over the course of his stewardship, he's put a lot into it. Now it's a world class. Like as you were, your walkthrough on Thursday showcased exactly how big it has become.
Wild.
There's 5 stages. We really do a lot to provide the best possible experience. We have professional photographers who come in for the photo ops, and then there's a lot of meet and greets and really special experiences that are going on. So last year, people had the opportunity to do a really up close and personal meet and greet with Carey Price, and he was just amazing with each of the fans. This year, it's Kevin Kiddemeyer who's going to come in and do something similar. And the chance to meet a player during his playing days is it's such a rare opportunity. All the current Leafs who came in last year, and then such an amazing lineup of guests as you see that we have this year. And that becomes just a will of Steve's to create a better experience for fans. We saw the results of Mike Tyson coming in, who wouldn't be your average sport card guest. It was great. We've dipped into wrestlers a few times, right? With a couple appearances by Ric Flair now, and some other wrestlers in the past. So I think there's always space for that in the hobby. And then with the growth of non-sport card collecting, someone like William Shatner makes perfect sense, right? You're going to have a lot of people there with some Star Trek cards, some old pieces, I'm sure, right? Captain Kirk coming in and being part of it, and the fact that he's Canadian, right? He's really a local at heart. So it's a special thing for him to be able to come in and meet with the fans. And in that area, actually, we have a whole new zone created by CSC, which will be really featuring a lot of the TCGs. So they're going to come in, they're going to have a space where we're going to have actual esports competitions and things like that. So opening it up to all the different collecting and all the different fandom that comes through the show. So it's really exciting. It's exciting to see. And then we also have the stage that we've built up, which again, you saw the very starts, right? We had just really put that stage in, or had just started to put that stage in, coming back from the pandemic. And it was, we had a few Q&As and things like that, but it was underutilized to the point now where we have amazing hobby panels and some incredible Q&As. Like your clip coming out of last year of the Forsberg
Yeah.
talking about Domi and how he made such a mistake making a run at him early on in his
Yeah.
career. Like that's awesome. Like that kind of stuff, those clips. It's not your everyday TV interview. It's much more casual. It's a lot more fun. And it gives fans a rare close-up experience with some of their athlete heroes.
I love that. We had Bret Hart here, right? Like
Oh yeah.
that
We've
was
had
about a
Bret
year. I
Hart
think
in.
it was about a year ago, and I'll never forget the lineup for Bret Hart, man. And I've never seen more grown ass men wearing pink and giant shades and just really embracing the fact that Bret Hart was there. I I know diehard fans, but the wrestling community is a big deal, and so the fact that you're bringing in RVD, the fact that you're bringing in like William Shatner, like I said, the Trailer Park Boys. You just mentioned the fact that there's going to be an entire, TCG area and an opportunity for people to play esports. And I just think that, really the way that you guys have differentiated yourselves and opened it up to so many different demographics and niches is like, is massive. It's huge. It's a difference maker, and it's probably one of the reasons why we continue to see so much growth in the event.
Yeah, and Steve continues to invest in it. Whether it's making sure that we have, after events going on. So we have the fan appreciation night on Friday and the minting trade night on Saturday. Both have doubled in size every single the year that we've run them. So really excited for that. Putting down carpet, right? Like I know it's a small thing, but it is a big thing to make it nicer. I'm making sure we have the endemic sponsors coming in here and activating, right? Every year we seem to get a new endemic sponsor to the industry, and more fun activations happening within the space. And that's the vendors themselves have become a really big part of the show in the sense that they're making it fun for attendees to come. They're far more engaging. They're far more willing to play, to help kids collect. It's a different hobby than when I was coming to the show in 1992.
Yeah, without a doubt. And yeah, just to your point, like the growth in the space has been just absolutely incredible. And I'm sure that's a motivating factor in continuing to expand for not only Steve but yourself as well. Uh,
Yeah,
go for it.
yeah, I was just gonna say the show, it hasn't just expanded in Toronto. There's four new shows that we've added in the last couple of years. One in Quebec City, which we've already run this year, which to great success. Edmonton coming up, which is the week after Toronto, and again is already sold out, and not in terms of tickets, but sold out in terms of booths. So another successful show, and it's been gangbuster since we opened the doors there. And our first Montreal show, of which we'll be doing 2 a year now. So very excited to see the expansion of the show itself and the hobby in general.
How was the Montreal show?
We haven't done it. That Montreal is in 2 weeks after. It was Quebec City that we did.
Quebec City, that's what it was. How did that one
And it
go?
was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Quebec City was awesome. We had a really good time there. It was a really good turnout. Better than expected. Venue was beautiful, and it was we got to walk around during Carnival at the last night. So it was all in all just an excellent experience, and excited to do it again next year.
That's amazing. I'll also never forget when I saw you at the first of all, I saw you everywhere for like a year, but I saw you at the
Yeah.
Mint. I saw you at the
Yep.
Mint and you were like gathering information and learning and just absorbing. And then again at the National. And neither of those times did we like talk beforehand. We just ran into each other. And I think that's when I really started to click for me, just like how much work you've been putting in behind the scenes, you and your team, and learning about other shows in the industry and trying to take what you like and adding and really trying to, I mean, create one hell of an event as a result of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the end of the day. Like, it's got to be a great experience, right? It's great to have the hobby and the growth and everything like that. But if we're not putting the hobby in the best light, then we're not going to get a return of the crowd each and every year. We're not going to get young people who are coming in and having a great first experience and becoming lifelong collectors. And that's at the end of the day, all of these shows, all of these stores, that's got to be the end goal because that helps everyone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'll say one of my favorite parts about the expo is the stage, the what is it? What do I call it? The upper deck booth. Every
Yep.
every time people talk about the Toronto Expo, it's always the triple decker upper deck booth. And I've been with people who have asked upper deck to bring something like that to their shows and they just not it doesn't happen. So I guess like how do you get some of these companies to put out what they're putting out right now for the expo?
Well, I think for Upper Deck, it's been, years long. And again, another relationship that the owner built over years and a trust there and a success, right? For Upper Deck, Toronto being the mecca of hockey and the mecca of collecting inside Canada, it's important for them to be here and to be here in a big way. And that booth is spectacular. I put it against any other booth that's in any other consumer show. It's a real special experience, and what they do around their booth has only grown, right? When they get to the raffles and the giveaways, it is outrageous with how many
Chaos.
people are standing around.
Chaos. Absolute
Yeah.
chaos. They I was at the the All-Star game in Toronto. Like
Mhm.
there was like the fan element of it, and Upper Deck brought a similar booth, but it wasn't identical. And I was like, I've seen this before.
And
So
look, that's a nod to us, right? And
yes,
not just them, but PWCC, eBay does a really great booth. Like we have endemic sponsors that are really supportive of the event and again make the event that much more exciting. Right? One of the best parts about going to the National and the Mint Collective was some of the really cool booths that were taking place there. I'm already locked in for the National this year as well. I'll be seeing you out there, I'm sure.
yeah, I'll be there.
And it's important to go to other shows, to make connections, to talk to people, to see what other people are doing. Some of the things I think we do better than anyone else, and the stage is one of them. The stage and the autograph area. I think we do and provide a better experience than anyone else.
That opening up that last hall is a game changer, man. Honestly, I'll
Yeah.
never forget how I felt when I first walked in there on the first day on Thursday. It was relatively open because it's like the dealer night,
Preview
you
night.
know, like
Yeah.
and I was just absolutely dumbfounded by just how big it felt, but also just how organized everything was and how everything just kind of felt like it was exactly where it needed to be.
Well, we laughed about how many tabs I had open
Yeah.
leading into this conversation, and that is a big reason why, right? With this show and many others going on, and shout out to my team, working on this all year. This is something that takes a long time to put together. Make sure that everyone's set for success inside, and all our attendees are there, happy. There's probably 30 to 40 people who are working on this project to make sure everything comes to fruition.
I love that. So you're also a father. Talk to me about how, fatherhood and collecting, how does that work with your kids? Are they collectors? Does it maybe like revitalize you every now and then?
Oh, so I drag my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's 5.5, to shows, and like she has a great time because a lot of the neighborhood kids are also into cards now. A lot of the boys, and so like
Yeah,
their sisters go and stuff, and so we meet up and we bring the kids all around.
I love
So I
that.
love going to some of the smaller shows and things like that. I just got her into collecting toonies. Like I desperately tried to get her into cards. Pokemon, whatever, anything like so she could come along with it and be a good excuse, but
Yeah.
she's not into that, but she is now into collecting. I got her a book to collect all the colorized toonies. So now we're looking through all the change I get, and I'm hoping that leads to, more collecting. I'm into it. The more she collects, the better.
Yeah.
Uh, the 1.5-year-old mostly just comes in and makes a mess. That's why it's so important to have your cards graded. It's great. They love it. They love that I love it. So and my wife puts up with it. Luckily, I've now whittled down. There's always a point I think in a collector's life where it's like, okay, I think I have maybe too many items.
Yeah.
I'm gonna whittle this down. Sold a bunch. Got like instead of buying 100 cards, took that 100 and turned it into one or two cards that I really love.
That's awesome. And when it comes to your like collecting, what is it mainly? Like, is it cards? Do you have like I see some stuff behind you? Like, what does your collecting consist of?
So my collecting consists of cards for sure.
Okay.
There is an obscene amount of cards that are not shown in and around. Like everyone else who's in this hobby, there's boxes and cases that are in another room that are stacked on top of each other, and that I enjoy very much, like reorganizing, like how I want them lined up and stuff. And then I also have at the shows I've got some pretty cool sign stuff. And then in some of the work that we do, so we do a lot of work with Canada Soccer and All-State for the All-State Soccer Show. So that ball over there is signed by all of the gold-winning Olympic team from Team Canada, the women's national team.
That's awesome.
So they lost some of my equipment, so that was their payback for me.
That's not bad.
Yeah, and then we've had some really cool, like the football in there signed by Theismann. And that was just came about from like a really natural conversation that we were having in the back. I was getting him his Uber. He's like, "Oh, let me sign something for you." So he signed the football. I'm like, that he was just a great guy. So stuff like that. And then obviously the things I grew up loving. So a lot of Vince Carter, a lot of Raptor stuff there. Some game worn Leaf stuff as well.
That's awesome. You know, when it comes to autographs, I find like those candid moments are just like, and maybe not even just autographs, but I guess like athlete interactions. Like
Hmm.
it's just those candid moments are really they're just there's something to it. They're so special. I think that's why, you know, you were talking about that Forsberg clip. I think that's why it just resonated so well with people because like he was just a person there. You know what I mean? He was literally just
Yep.
like shooting the shit about like Adam Deadmarsh and like being terrified of Ty Domi. Like and
Yeah.
like obviously watching him play, you'd never think that. Cause that's like all internal dialogue. You know what I mean? But instead he's like vocalizing that and you're like, what the hell's coming out of this guy's mouth? Like, you know, like I thought this man was Superman.
That's the thing, right? Like, and there's awesome. We've gotten a lot of great sound bites because again, it's a 10 to 15 minute interview. It's way more casual than anything you're gonna see on in sports media. And like you said, you're getting some inner monologue that's coming out after retired, like the players retired, and there's not so much of a worry, right? Like this is the best part about it.
I couldn't agree more. Are there more guests that are going to be announced?
Yes, probably a few more down the pipeline. Steve likes to roll them out drip style, and yeah, it's a great lineup. It's super exciting. And the you know what the people who are coming up in this industry and really providing the autographs, the agents are becoming better too, and providing better experiences and caring more about the end consumer.
I mean, that's important because, like, to your point, it's like people can come here, but if they don't enjoy it, if they don't have like a memorable experience, then like all that's for nothing, basically, you know? Like you've just lost someone effectively.
It is, and it's way harder to gain someone back than it is to keep them happy, and so we work really hard to make sure those experiences are great, right? Like whether it's that 2 minutes with the while you're getting your autograph or the lean in photo. Obviously we have to bring some people through, and it's quick, especially with some of the bigger guests like Tyson and I'm sure Rodman and some of the other guys that we bring in. Solani this year I'm sure will be crazy,
Nuts, bro.
right?
It's gonna be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and we'll get him on it. Well, I have a special request from Jeremy Lee. He's
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, needs. I
he's
mean,
a fanatic,
That's
so
his
he's
favorite
gonna be good.
player. Yeah, yeah. I
Yes.
when I saw it, I literally tagged him and then I posted him in a story. I was like, Jeremy Lee, this is all yours. Like, and it's
Yeah.
not even like he's like, oh yeah, that was my favorite player. Like he openly talks about how Timu is like his favorite player, and so I
Yeah.
was like, he has to. I was like, if he doesn't, I'll be upset.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna try my best. I promised him I'd try my best to make sure. And again, like the hobby has provided me with some friends, right? Like it's been really cool. Not just through the shows, but like other people I've connected with collecting and gotten closer with because of a shared interest. So I mean, I collected when I was younger and then really kicked it up again in 2018 when Steve brought me back to the show and to help out. And it's a blessing and a curse. For me, it's a blessing. For my wife, it's a curse.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's funny. A lot of times when people ask me like, "Oh, what do you do?" Like, first of all, I can never explain it. But secondly, it usually centered around like, "Oh yeah, like I collect like sports cards." And they're like, "Oh yeah, cool. Like what kind of car do you drive?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Like sports car, like cards, like
Yeah, yeah,
like
I know.
pieces of paper actually."
Yeah, with other people's picture on it. But don't worry,
I
I
can't
pay
drive
someone
any of
else to put
these.
another piece of plastic around it, so it's safe.
I can't drive any of these though. Although I'm sure some of the ones out there, you could probably swap them for a ride.
I was gonna say you could. There's definitely, it's crazy to see now with what's going on with the bounty for the Bernard, right? So, you could swap them for a very nice house and a car, right?
This is
So,
100% true, man.
Yeah.
How do you feel? So obviously there's a massive Bedard bounty out there. I mean, I feel like more people have been ripping hockey than probably ever before. How do you think
100%.
that'll translate into this upcoming expo?
I can see it already. Like it's the hype is there, right? People are having a great time doing it with their kids. It's a little it's a little expensive, but
Yeah,
it's a treat people are doing with their kids. The hobby box is 350, but you can probably get a tin for 100.
yeah.
So I see a lot of parents going out with their kids and busting up tins. And then like I get a message from a group of people like, oh, Walmart just restocked. It's $80 a tin. Get over there. So, and I only see that coming. And for sure there's going to be a lot of parents there who will come in, and a lot of adult kids who will come in looking to rip right there in the upper deck booth, right? Or in the Grosvenor or in the Universal. Like there's going to be a lot of box breaking there.
One thing I found super interesting about the expo was the breaking pavilion. Now I found it interesting. I'm not saying that I would recommend it in any way, shape, or form, but is that something you
Mhm.
ever considered doing at the expo?
Yeah, we've talked about it. We've played with the idea. Like I know you're talking about the national, right? Like where
Yeah,
you
is that
had
what I
the
said?
the
What did I
whole
say?
area. Yeah, the expo. But
Oh no,
I
no,
knew
yeah, the
what you were talking,
national.
and
Yeah,
everyone else
yeah,
knew
yeah,
too.
yeah.
But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I
Yeah,
just don't think we have, in Canada, it's not to the same level that it is in the
of
U.S.
course.
And the second part is it's not really the focus of our show specifically. There's definitely
Yeah,
breakers on the floor, but even them, their focus isn't on their breaks, it's on the action, buying and selling,
yeah.
right? There's so much of that, and I don't know where we'd fit that, right? Like
No,
we're
I know.
running out of
I
space in the
I'm not saying you
facility.
guys should add or subtract anything.
But it is neat. It was cool, right? Like it
Yeah,
was cool. It is neat to see. Um, I think too much like for me, not every break is created the same in terms of entertainment
of
value.
course.
So yeah, there's some of it that's good. Like I love when we have live breaks that are involving the attendees on the floor.
Yeah, me
Right,
too.
like that to me is so much more fun than someone just watching a stream of
Definitely.
32 people who are in a
Like
random
nowhere.
break
Yeah, yeah.
online.
Like from
Yeah.
different parts of the world and like nowhere near.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
Of
not that, and online, like that's great, right? Like that's fun seeing the chat
course,
fire, like that's
of
great. But
course.
in person, when you have little kids, like eBay does a kids break a day, and that's wicked. Like it draws 32 kids, and they're screaming, and their parents are
I love that.
screaming. And
Yeah,
now that there's gonna be Bedard chases in there, like there's gonna be a kid who just absolutely loses it, and
yeah,
who
yeah.
knows? Maybe they get the 101
That
during the
would
break.
be bonkers, man. I would
Bonk,
if
absolutely
if
crazy.
I mean if the one-on-one is pulled at the expo, like I don't, it'll be just absolute chaos. That person,
News.
he would need to be
News would
escorted. That person would need to be escorted out though.
100 like right away. We would have that plain clothes off the off duty officer
Yeah,
come right beside
yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah. You have
right?
to.
And listen, David Adams is at the show, so we'll just take them right to the
Yeah,
David
exactly.
Adams
Just
booth.
straight to the bank.
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah, like that is I only see that being a positive. Look, I don't think. And I heard this said, it was Karn saying it on Hockey Gong Show on his most recent interview. Well, every other sport went through a really hyped up rookie class, or a really hyped up rookie. Basketball with Zion and now Wemby. Football with all the recent batches of young superstar QBs. And then baseball with some of their big
Yeah,
chases, right? And now you get to hockey, and they really haven't had one since McDavid. Alexis Lafreniere, but he didn't, by the
pan
time
out.
his cards got out,
Yeah,
it's not that he's a bad player, but he wasn't a world changer, and
yeah,
that's what you need to be this hype. And Bedard has come on the scene. He's on a really bad team, and he's playing really well, and he's putting up highlights. I think right before they released Series 2, he got like 5 points
Bro, it
that
was
night.
nuts. Yeah, yeah. It was like literally
He's
like
like, I'm gonna single-handedly
he had
boost
like
this
8
up
points in 2
20%.
games or something, man. I was like,
Yeah.
this guy's like, why would you do that to everybody?
Right. He just made everything else cost more. And look, people are having fun with it, right? Like it's very exciting. Obviously, prices will probably come down.
Yeah,
Right there, though, unless he's on a world level pace, but it'll still be a healthy price and it'll still be people chasing it for a few years now.
yeah.
And while people are doing that, just buy Connor McDavid rookies
Or Sidney Crosby.
or Sidney Crosby even more, right? It's
It's so
unbelievable.
it's really crazy. Nuts. Honestly, if I share what I paid for Sidney Crosby like 2 months ago, I can't.
But that's the thing,
Crazy.
right? There's always going to be deals. There's a finite
Crazy.
amount of money in the hobby. It
Yeah.
does grow, but it's not exponential.
Yeah.
So while money shifts around, there'll be opportunities to get in at different deals, right? And when I first started buying a lot of vintage when everyone was going bonkers for the early modern, right? Like it
Yeah.
was lower price. It's gone back up again, but yeah, like I was buying vintage a lot early, raw and grading it. Now it's not as easy.
Always go against the grain, man. That's the way to do it.
That's it.
Mikey, if
Not
you
to
had
say I didn't bust a whole bunch of boxes of
yeah, of
modern.
course, of
Yeah,
course, of
like
course. Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
definitely no sage, I
But
can
you
tell you
learn
that.
quickly though, apparently.
Expensive lessons.
Mikey, if you had to share one thing that everyone should know going into this expo, what would it be?
The one thing I would share is come early,
Love that.
right? Like if you want to come in and have the best experience, come in early. If you want to really shop around and do business and do some selling, come in on the Thursday night. Like if you seriously want to come in and talk to every vendor and make a sale, Thursday night preview night is probably the best night for you to come in and do business. There'll be a lot of dealers buying. It's always harder to come up to someone who's got 18 people at their table and be like, "Hey, you want to look at my case?" Right?
Yeah,
Like they're doing business, so be cognizant of that. And finally, come with a great attitude. It's a super fun show, right? Like there's so many different ways to have fun at the show, and yeah, excited to see everyone there.
I love that. Any last minute plugs? Whatever you want, go for it. The floor is yours.
Yeah, look for, the best way to stay connected to the show is through the app. We've worked a lot on developing a native app for the event. We'll be doing a lot of announcements there. It's the best way to find people on the floor plan. It's the best way to find out when we're doing stage talks, and we'll live stream into there. So again, download the app. I think we're running a contest now for everyone who downloads it in the next little bit. And if you already have it downloaded, make sure to comment, share, talk to people. Great way to set yourself up for success at the show.
Love that. Team, I want to thank Mikey for jumping on the podcast here today. And I hope you guys all attend or have the opportunity to check out what's about to go down at the Toronto Sports Card Expo, April 25th to the 28th at it's not the Mississauga Convention Center. I always get this
No, no,
mixed
no,
up.
no. It's at the
What is it?
International
At the
Center. It is in
International Center.
Mississauga.
I know.
It
That's why it
is.
always
That's
messes
fair to
me up.
you.
It's like
It's at the International
is it
Center.
555 Airport Road? Am I right? Something like
Oh
that.
wow, you
No, that's
pulled me.
okay.
I don't remember
So
exactly. It is on Airport Road though. I should know.
I just butchered it. The Toronto Sports Card Expo, April
Yeah,
25th to the 28th at the International Center. You heard my
halls
yeah, nope.
5, connector 4 and 3.
Beautiful. And you heard Mikey. If you want to get some deals done, make sure you can. Thursday is probably the day. Thursday, Friday, get in early. Obviously, Saturday is amazing and it's a crazy atmosphere in there, but it does get a little hectic. Team, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Cardboard Coach. As always, thank you so much. Coach Co and Mikey are out of here. Peace.